All right, welcome to another live episode of geekoutdoors.com. So this week we're going to be talking about how teens are leaving and dumping Facebook for YouTube and other platforms. And then secondly, we're going to be talking about Dell's new Linux laptops. And finally, we're going to talk about some geeky stuff, some Q&A stuff. And so let's go ahead and start with the very first piece of news is where the latest research for Pew survey shows that teens are leaving Facebook and heading to other more visually stimulating platforms, specifically video, for other platforms like YouTube, Instagram, and Snapchat. Now, what I'm going to do here is talk about it from three different perspectives. One perspective is from the consumer perspective. Another perspective is from the marketing perspective. And then the final one is from the content creator perspective. And this might not seem like something that is important, but it will be once you actually see the whole thing that I'm going to be talking about. Okay, so all of this comes from this Pew survey right here. And so Pew Research Company, they've been doing this for a long time. And the last time they did something on teens and social media and technology, I think was back in 2015. So from the latest statistics, it is showing that teens prefer YouTube by a huge margin of 85%. Instagram was second with 72%. Snapchat 69%. Facebook is down there at 51%. Twitter 32%. Tumblr 9%. Reddit 7%. And then other, it's like 3%. Okay, so teens, if you have teenagers or you see teens all around, they're constantly on their phone all the time. They are constantly on social media. And if you didn't know, YouTube is considered social media. And so it is become a social media platform. And if you are a YouTube content creator, which I'll get into in the end, you'll see that YouTube has added a lot of social elements. Okay, so YouTube is also a social media platform. And so these kids are on their phones all the time, constantly. And more, they're spending more of their times on YouTube and Instagram. Specifically for a few reasons. The first reason is video. Video is extremely important, and it's important in more ways than just entertainment. And I'll get into that on the second part when I talk about the marketing. And so if you actually go and look at this research, it just shows that Facebook is no longer the dominant platform among teens. And this isn't really surprising because if you've been around the internet long enough, especially with the birth of social media, so anybody remembers MySpace or Friendster or any of these other platforms, Zoom, okay, so if you're old enough, you would know what I'm talking about. And so typically teenagers or young people are usually the first ones to gravitate towards the new thing, okay? They set trends, they're heading towards these trends. And obviously, if you look at those platforms now, they no longer exist, or they're mostly much older because these teenagers have now become adults, they become parents. Okay, and so the same thing has happened with Facebook. If you actually are on Facebook right now, the majority of people who are on Facebook are not the youngest people. They're usually older people who were teenagers when they started using these social media platforms. And so that is very important. And that's something that Facebook knew about. They weren't dumb. And so Instagram is actually owned by Facebook. Okay, so for anybody who doesn't know, Instagram is part of Facebook. And so Instagram, surprisingly or not surprisingly enough, they're second right behind YouTube. And so, Facebook and all these other companies, they predict things. They have a lot of data to show. They know things that are going to happen years and years in advance. And so Facebook bought Instagram knowing that teenagers were going to eventually move to another platform. And even towards previous history, like I said, with MySpace and other platforms, they did the same thing. Okay, and this is almost always going to be the case. Teenagers are always going to go to the newest platforms, and then when they see their parents on there, they're going to leave. Okay, so that's always the good sign. Whenever kids see their parents on there, then it's time for them to move on. Okay, so let me see if anybody's on here right now. Hey, good morning, Gaza. Thanks for joining. Rose, thank you so much for joining. So Rose is saying hello to everyone. Instagram is owned by Facebook, but Geek, did you hear that Microsoft wants to buy GitHub for $2 billion? Not yet, Rose. I will get into that later. But yeah, I just mentioned that Instagram is owned by Facebook. And so let's go ahead and first talk about it from a consumer standpoint. Okay, why multimedia, specifically video, why it is so important. If you actually go on YouTube, it's not surprising to see what most people are watching. And the majority of time, it is entertainment based. And the majority of times, it's music videos. As a matter of fact, music videos are the top categories in YouTube. They get more views, more interaction than any other types of entertainment or types of programming available on YouTube. So let me show you some simple examples. Maroon 5 in 2 days, it has 19 million views. Cardi B in 3 days, 33 million views. Marshmello in 2 days, 2.1 million views. And then if you go to a channel like Vivo, which is where the majority of music videos are coming, they have almost 17 million subscribers and tons of video views, because people love music and they love music videos. And as a matter of fact, if you are on YouTube or you understand like what kids are going towards, the majority of times if they want to see the latest music videos, they're almost always going to go to YouTube as their main source. And another thing is, in terms of trends, if you know what's kind of going on in trends, if you look up this thing called BTS, it's a Korean K-pop group. They're absolutely destroying the entertainment industry right now. And I just talked about earlier how music videos are the most popular thing and how many views that they get. Well, BTS conquers them all. I mean, their latest video, or the latest big video, was for BTS Fake Love. In 2 weeks, that's already racked up 127 million views. Their other videos, 393 million views. There's just a few of them came out the other day, 2 million views. So, you know, you could see where this is trending. This is absolutely huge. And so why is this important from the consumer standpoint? Because it relates to business. Okay, because if they're looking at this data, okay, and they see that tons of people are watching this, and especially kids, who are the largest consumers of this type of entertainment, you know, video views, all this music, especially trendy music, then guess what? It relates exactly to business, because this particular group, which they're all Korean, they speak Korean on their actual music. It's already made Billboard's top 200. It's actually #1 album sold on Billboard. And it's not even a full English album. It is a Korean and with some English album. And it also debuted #10 on the Hot 100 on Billboard. And so this is huge. So they are actually making a ton of money. And at the same time, it leads to other things, because their actual world tour, it's already sold out in all these countries. In the US specifically, if you see here, sold out, all the way down. Actually, even Paris, Berlin, all sold out. These other ones will probably also be sold out in South Korea as well once they open that up. And so that leads to billions and billions and billions of dollars. And it's not just for, you know, K-pop groups. It's actually anything. Video is where you want to be at, and YouTube is the place you want to be. And that leads me to the whole marketing part. Okay, so you just saw there now, consumers, this is where they go. Specifically, these young teenagers. They're going to go to YouTube. You know, they're going to go to YouTube, and then they're going to go to other social media platforms like Instagram or even Twitter to actually talk about it. Okay, and Twitter is pretty huge for this group BTS as well. And so that is actually leads to a business, you know, a business reason why this is so important. And so that leads me to the whole marketing end. Okay, and so you saw how there, from a consumer standpoint, you could see where all the views are going. You can see why video is so important, and you could see how that relates to business in the real world. Now, let me talk about the other side of business, which is the marketing, or specifically digital marketing. Now, if you are new to my channel, if you didn't know, you know that I'm a content creator, obviously, because I create YouTube videos, but I'm also a marketer. I'm a digital marketer, and what I do specifically is SEM, PPC, and what you see here. If you are a YouTube content creator, then you are doing marketing as well. It's called content marketing, or you are doing inbound marketing. Okay, that's what you're actually doing. It's also another form of SEO. Okay, and so all of that is part of digital marketing. And then if you are on YouTube and you're not familiar with what goes on behind the scenes, whenever you see those ads on these YouTube videos, okay, and or on websites, you see all these ads. All of these ads are done through digital marketing. And all the ads that you see in YouTube, they're from Google AdWords. And then creators get paid through their AdSense program, but all that money comes from Google AdWords. So basically, people like myself and businesses, we buy ads. And a portion of the percentage of those ads are given to you, the content creators who are on YouTube. And so digital marketing is Google AdWords. It's places like business.facebook.com. So that's Facebook ads. It's Bing ads. It is Twitter ads. It's Snapchat ads and many other places. Okay, so whenever you actually, see all these ads, there's a reason why these companies, it's so important for them to, have ads on these platforms, because that's how they make the majority of their money. Okay, actually more than 90% of their money is made through ads, through marketing. Okay, and so if you are a digital marketer, you would understand this, why video is so important. Because a lot of times what goes on behind the scenes in marketing, most people don't know, because they're not in the whole marketing industry. And the thing is, we as digital marketers, we see a lot of things that go on before you, the consumer, see it. Because all these businesses, they're buying ads. And so a lot of the times, these ads are done way before the trends come, because a lot of these companies have to predict where things are going based upon the data that they receive. Okay, and so one thing that's been happening in the whole marketing space more than a year now, it's probably been like 2 years, there's been a huge shift towards video. Okay, so what's going to happen is, you as the consumer, in the future or here really soon, you're going to start seeing a lot more video ads. You're going to see more video ads being pushed up on Facebook, on Bing, on Twitter, on Snapchat. You're going to see more video, period. Why? Because of all these things I just talked about. Okay? And the thing is, all these companies knew about this way before any of the consumers did. And so you're going to see more and more video ads. And so if you are a digital marketer, or you're thinking about becoming a digital marketer, just understand that it's very important that you do video, that you understand video, that you understand how it works when it comes to SEM, PPC, SEO. It's very important that you learn content marketing. And I do have a course that I've taken myself that I learned all of this. I will leave that in the comments area below. It is a digital marketing course that I absolutely recommend. You get access to 4 free videos. Okay, so if you want to learn more about digital marketing, you could go there. Now you've seen how digital marketing, video is all related. And now from a content creator point of view, if you are a content creator, you need to be on YouTube, period. There are other video platforms, but none of them are going to even come close to YouTube. YouTube gets more than 1 billion views a day. And as I've shown you here, by these video views, okay, by the interactions on this and how they relate directly to business, if you want to do anything and actually make money, you need to do video and you need to be on YouTube, period. There's no disputing that. And the thing is, Facebook, like I said, they are pushing up video, but it's not just on Facebook. It's on Instagram as well, because as I mentioned earlier, Instagram is owned by Facebook. So if you are a content creator, I highly recommend that you first start with YouTube, okay? And then if you do Facebook or Instagram, upload videos. But I recommend doing YouTube. It's very important. And then secondly, if you're going to do this to earn money, to earn as a business, then you need to learn digital marketing. Okay, because all of this goes hand in hand. And as you learn, if you do digital marketing, if you are a content creator, you are doing content marketing. You are doing inbound marketing. It's SEO. Okay, so that all those things are very important. And so that's why this news made me think about those things, because this is where everything is heading. And so if you are just a consumer and you just watch videos, then this is probably not that important to you. But what you will see is more videos everywhere. So as a consumer, you will be affected by that as well. Okay, so you're going to see way more video ads. So here pretty soon, whenever you go to google.com or you go to bing.com and you type in a search term, the majority of results that are going to come up, they're going to be video. Okay, and so you're probably already seeing some of that right now, where you would type in a search and then a video comes up. So in the future, you're going to see more and more just video ads. And so if you are a content creator and you actually want to make money, run a business, then you want to get in now, so then your video ads will show up on google.com or on bing.com or on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter or Snapchat. Okay, and so that's why this stuff is so important. Okay, so let me go see some of the comments here. So Guys are saying, I still use Google Plus. It's a great platform. I wonder why kids don't use it. Yeah, guys, because honestly, kids are unpredictable in a lot of ways. If you have kids, you understand. I mean, you know, because Google, they had all the right things in place to make Google Plus successful, but it just didn't really, you know, make many moves. Okay, it didn't really have an impact at all, and I think the main reason why is because of the branding. The kids associate social media with Facebook, okay, and now they associate social media with Instagram. And so, but now YouTube is actually a social media platform in and of itself. And so YouTube is going to try again. And so if you are a content creator, if you have more than 10,000 subscribers, you get this thing called a community tab. And so you are able to do things very similar to Snapchat and Instagram. And so YouTube is not stopping. They're trying again. But instead of Google Plus, they just integrate it into YouTube because YouTube is such a huge platform. Okay, and so that's actually what's happening. And so guys are saying the algorithms on YouTube are problematic, especially notifications and subscription feeds. Yeah, Gaza, I just want to be real with you, Gaza. A lot of people only know YouTube because they're consumers. And that's what most people talk about. You know, they talk about not getting notifications or the ad apocalypse or stuff like that. Most people don't do the business end. And even the content creators themselves, most of them don't buy ads. Okay, so for myself, I don't spend a lot of my time focus on the algorithms or focusing on, you know, like things like people not getting my notifications and stuff. You know, I don't. What I focus on is two things. And if you watch my channel, you notice. I focus on creating content and I focus on the marketing underneath. That is all I focus on. Because I know that all these platforms, all of them, they all work the same. And how they work is you need content and you need marketing. You need digital marketing underneath. And digital marketing underneath doesn't change very fast. Regardless of whatever the algorithm does, if you understand how SEO works, you understand how content marketing works, you're gonna be in a good place, regardless of whatever algorithm changes they make, because all of these companies, they do the same thing underneath. And so that's why whenever I talk about these things, I could talk about it from 3 points of view. I'm a consumer, I'm a content creator, and I'm a marketer. So I have a unique perspective for most people because I do all three. And so whenever I talk about these things, it's like I'm like sharing my own experiences with you. Okay, and so for me, I'm not talking about it just from a consumer point of view where I hate ads and they're just bothersome. And I don't just talk about it from a marketing point of view where all I care about is showing you ads. And I just don't talk about it from a content creator point of view where I complain about not getting paid from ads, because I understand how all three of these work. All of them work together. Okay, so for me, I don't really pay much attention to whatever the algorithm or notifications. I don't really pay attention to that. What I pay attention to is creating content and the marketing underneath, because that is the foundation of all of these platforms. Okay, and so from a consumer point of view, you are already seeing this. You will see more videos, you will see more video ads. Okay, and unfortunately there's really not much you can do about that because that's where everything's heading. And Rose is saying, I already knew about BTS since it's bigger in Asia. Yeah, Rose, if you are part, I watch a lot of international things, and so I've been a fan of K-pop, J-pop for a long time now. And so BTS, they've been around since, what, 2013? But there's been many K-pop bands before that, especially big bands like, Big Bang or Girls' Generation. So K-pop is huge, and BTS is just gonna make it go absolutely crazy. And so, this is an international market, all around the world. If you are from the UK, then British pop has been a big thing for a long time now. And so a lot of people are comparing BTS to the Beatles. And I don't know. I don't think that's a fair comparison in my opinion, because the Beatles, they're going to be the Beatles. I don't think you could ever repeat what the Beatles have done. That's a different time. Okay. But there are similarities, because the Beatles were an international phenomenon. I think they were the very first international phenomenon at that level. And so because of platforms like YouTube, these groups from different countries, they're going to have a much bigger impact than they would if they were just remaining in their country. So Gaza, sorry, I suppress ads. I just want the content. Patreon is good enough. Yeah, Gaza, I mean, you know, in my opinion, you know, you are the consumer. You have a choice. You know, you don't have to watch these ads, and you don't have to watch stuff that you don't enjoy, you know. And so that's a great thing about the internet. If it bothers you, turn on ad blocks, or just don't watch the content, you know, or find other avenues where the content is provided to you with a better user experience. And so for myself, I have many different areas that you could go to consume my content. YouTube is obviously the main area. I do have stuff on Patreon. Thank you so much, Rose, and to everybody who do support me on Patreon. I also have stuff on my website. And then also, if you subscribe to my email list, you get additional content that you won't see here as well. And so I try to provide content in many different areas because I, like you, I consume content in many different ways. You know, I read books, I love audiobooks, and so I just want to provide as many different options for people. That's why I focus so much on creating content. That's why I have so much content. I love creating content, but at the same time, I'm a consumer as well, and so I really like consuming my content in many different ways. And so Rose is saying Beatles didn't have the internet versus today. Beatles would be bigger if internet was big in the 1960s. Yeah, Rose, I completely agree with you because Paul McCartney, if I remember correctly, I think Paul McCartney was like the first billion-dollar musician, you know, and it took him a very long time to get there, you know, and despite all the amazing success. But nowadays, kids are, you know, these young kids who are entertainers, they're becoming multimillionaires and billionaires. And I'm pretty sure BTS is going to become billionaires as well, much quicker because of the internet. So absolutely, Rose, I agree with you. Gaza saying, I'm not just a consumer, I provided tech infrastructure support for social media in my day job. Yeah, Gaza. And so that's great because you understand what's going on as well underneath. Okay. And so whenever you do have that knowledge where you understand the consumer point of view, where you understand the marketing point of view and the content creator point of view, I think whenever these things happens, you don't get triggered by it because you understand. And at the same time, because you understand how to work underneath, then you could like ignore a lot of things, okay? Or you could block them however you want. You understand what's going on. So that's the main reason why I talk about these things because I want people to have a better understanding of why things are happening. And then they can make better decisions. And then they could get less triggered on things that are really not that important, okay, in my personal opinion. And so in my opinion, the more knowledge that you have, the more knowledge in the right areas, it's better because then you are able to control your actual experience. You know what I'm saying? And so that gets into other things as well. But, you know, I could relate that to things like privacy. The more you know about how technically privacy works and stuff, how to manage that, then it's a lot easier for you to control your user experience. Okay, and so so let's go ahead and get into the second piece of news, and that is Dell refreshes their precision lines of laptops. Now, Dell, in my opinion, they have been since the beginning of Linux. They've been there, and I think they were the first major company to actually provide Dell laptops. And also computers built in. They had Linux built in. And so they were one of the first big companies. And so they just made an update to their precision line. It's $942. And this is primarily meant for work. Okay, so let me go into the actual specs itself. So it has an Intel Core i5. You could get up to an i7. It does come with Ubuntu Linux 16.04 installed, pre-installed. You could also upgrade this to Windows 10 Pro for $106. I'm not sure why you would do that for this particular computer. And it has many other options here. And it's also Red Hat Linux certified as well. And so this is primarily for business, you know, for work. Now, Dell used to provide these, I think, for consumers as well. But now it's not a huge market. And so they've actually changed this over just to for the business sector. Okay, and when it actually comes to Linux laptops, most people think about System 76. Okay, and I'm so glad that System 76 is around They provide a niche and service for people who want to have Linux on their computers. If for people who are not aware, they provide Linux-based desktops and computers for people who want the Linux operating system on their computer versus something like a Windows. And so I am happy that Dell is still doing this. They are still providing Dell Linux laptops. Okay, but I will say that if you've been using Linux for a while, we always say that this is going to be the year of the Linux laptop, and I don't think that's ever going to happen. As we transition towards more things on the internet, cloud-based stuff, and most people really don't care, to be honest with you, what operating systems are working underneath, except for maybe the Apple people. They still care a lot. But in the future, and I have mentioned this many times before, operating systems won't matter in the future. As long as people get their services and products, then that's all that matters. Okay, that's really, and even myself, I use a web browser more than 90% of the times. I'm just happy that I still have Linux to use it on and that I could control. But in the future, I know that will be gone. Okay, as everything's going towards the cloud. And so even when that goes towards the cloud, you might have Linux servers running everything underneath, but your interface, your ecosystem, it's going to be something else. And so I do applaud that Dell is still doing this, but to me the writing's on the wall. And so I don't know how many more years left that we have of just the pure Linux desktop operating system. I know that sounds kind of morbid, but I see where things are going, and I've been thinking about it for years now. And when I see things like the Chrome adding Linux apps, Microsoft Windows adding their WSL layers for Linux related stuff, it's inevitable basically. And so enjoy these Linux only desktops and laptops for now, even though there were a small minority. I think in the next few years, maybe sooner, these might be phased out. Okay, and so yeah. So hopefully I won't have to make that video anytime soon where it's the last Linux desktop. But I mean, for us who are using Linux, most people who use Linux as a desktop operating system, we don't buy machines that are pre-built with Linux anyways. Most of us just take our existing Windows computers and we'll put Linux on top of it, or we'll partition it. We'll have Linux and Windows. Okay, but anyways, I didn't want to make that morbid. It was kind of exciting in one case because I remember when Dell did have their Linux laptops, and as a matter of fact, whenever I was in college, I actually worked at Dell. I was an intern at Dell, and so and this was a long time ago. This is more than 10, 12 years ago, even longer than that. And so at the time, Dell was still the biggest manufacturer of computers. It was still Dell and Gateway, and so they had their JIT inventory system, so that's just-in-time inventory system, and so that was still something that was new and that was dominated by Dell and other companies like Gateway. And so when I worked there at Dell, I got to see their Dell servers, which is their Dell Optiplex servers, and that is how they made the majority of their money. They have their business segment, and so their consumer end did make money, but it was their business end that made the most money. And then whenever they released their Linux laptops, I was like, wow, what's this? And at the time, I just barely started using Linux. Okay, I think my first exposure was Red Hat Linux, and it wasn't a great experience. And so that was really new. Okay, and they're still doing it. And so hats off to Dell for doing that. And also, I have to applaud companies like System 76. Even though this is not a obviously high revenue, high profit area, I gotta applaud them for providing something for people who love Linux. Okay, and so hopefully my predictions will be wrong, and we'll have Linux desktops for the next 100 years. So, let me see. So guys are saying my employers have just done a refresh of the XPS 13 and XPS 15. They're truly amazing, but I still can't let go of my ThinkPad. Oh, that's awesome, Gaza. Yeah, so the one that Gaza's talking about is these right here. These are the XPS systems. They are smaller and thinner, but they are made for developers, and so that's sweet. And guys, I did talk about this on a previous episode when I talked about the Chrome OS, and I just mentioned a little bit earlier running Linux apps. I think the Chrome OS will replace these, in my opinion. You know, so once they get this virtualization working seamlessly to run full-blown Linux app through Chrome OS, that's what Google's game is. That's why they're doing all this stuff. They're gonna get into the business space through their Chrome operating system. Okay, and so that would get into their other Google for Business ecosystem, which is definitely starting to eat into Microsoft's lunch and Apple's lunch. Okay, and so guys are saying the great thing about Dell units is that the reconditioned business class units are so cheap and they run Linux perfectly. Yeah, Gaza, Dell, obviously they're a big company. Stuff works really well on their units. Okay, and so wow, and there's a lot more right here. They put a lot of work and support into it, and that's why, you know, people who want for business, they want Linux, they're normally gonna go to Dell. Okay, they're in terms of the laptops and stuff. Okay, they're the best provider on that. And so Rose is saying, oh well, Geek, no more Linux Mint, so sad. No, Rose, I will still use Linux Mint. There still be virtual machines available for people who want to use it. And so yeah, I'm gonna, you've seen my computer. I have a computer from 2005 and I still run Linux on it. And so yeah, it's gonna be a while. I'm a Linux fanboy for life. So good morning, KI Tooney. Thank you for joining. I haven't seen you in a while. So Gaza's saying cloud service is good and have their but there is a growing trend of moving away from it and choosing a private network cloud service like Nextcloud. Well, Gaza, I think that is a very niche thing, okay? Because you got to remember, and you know this, right? The majority of people who buy stuff, they're not tech nerds and geeks. They're mass consumers, okay? That's for anything. The mass consumers are the ones spending money, and so they don't care what technology, what's happening underneath. They just don't. Otherwise, they wouldn't use Microsoft. They would stop using Microsoft Windows and Apple Mac and use Linux instead. But there is definitely an area for private networks. But my personal opinion, I have said this many times, securing your stuff on your computer or even a VPN or whatever, honestly, I don't think that matters. Because where the most precious data, the most valuable data is on these company servers and databases that you do not control. If I'm a hacker, what makes more sense? Am I going to spend my time trying to hack into somebody's personal computer or trying to steal data that's being transferred from somebody's personal computer? Or am I going to go ahead and hack one of these big companies and get millions and billions of people's records? That's where I'm going. And at the same time, as a hacker, you have a lot more street cred when you have hacked into a big company with all their security. So yeah, so I think security-wise, I'm more concerned about how these companies store our data and governments store our data. But unfortunately, that's a place that you have the least control over. Actually, you have really no control, especially when it comes to government databases and servers. And so that's why I don't think, even with private networks and stuff, it's not going to help too much, because the most precious data is not on your computers. It's not the stuff that you're sending. It's stuff stored on these government and business databases. And so, yeah, you can encrypt and, yeah, you can do encryption, you can do everything you want, but it's on their servers. It's on their databases. And so that's my personal opinion, okay? That's why whenever you see all these large-scale hacks and stuff, it's not these machines or people's VPN services getting hacked. No, it's these large company databases and business databases, okay? So that's my personal opinion. Rose is saying, Pearson make laptop also probably better than System 76, more security, privacy built in. Oh yeah, Rose, I forgot about that. Yeah, you're right. Let me see. Yeah, Pearson, you know, Pearson is really interesting because I think that they have the potential. I think they have the potential to actually become the go-to vendor when it comes to pure Linux stuff for consumers, enthusiasts like us, just everyday people who actually want a Linux experience. I really think Purism is going to be the one because of the fact that they are going to be doing this. Okay, they're going to be providing a Linux phone combined with their Linux laptops. I really think they have a shot at becoming the source for people who actually want to get Linux on their phones and on their computers, pre-built, of course, because along with the trend of teens, most of them access all their stuff through their phones and mobile. And so if you are in the digital marketing space, mobile is where it's at, and it's been like that for many years now. Okay, and so Purism, I really, yeah, I'd agree with you, Rose. I think that they're gonna blow up. I think, hopefully, I really do hope that they have a lot of success, because the more success they have, then the more exposure companies like System 76 will get as well. And then in the end, the more exposure the whole Linux community, in terms of the Linux desktop operating system, will get. Gaza saying System 76 are the Linux version of Apple. Yeah, I've heard that before, Gaza, and they are expensive for the hardware that you're getting. But at the same time, you know, Gaza, there's not many other options, you know, as we just talked about here. And so maybe, you know, Purism, if they are able to also provide these at a lower cost, they could overtake System 76, you know. But, you know, there's not too many options out there. And so, yeah, but I see what you're saying. It is pricey. And a lot of these laptops, and, you know, System 76, they're not a big company. I think they're based out of Colorado. And so a lot of these are refurbished, not refurbished, but they were existing Chinese brands computers, and so they've just, you know, reconfigured it for System 76. Okay, and so, and a lot of these are all Chinese anyway. I mean, all the hardware. Let's just be real. You know, 99% of them are. And so Rose saying, I don't really trust the cloud per se for security and privacy. I want control, not some party or company. Yeah, that's always going to be a difficult thing, Rose, because, you know, we always have the control of what we put out. But, you know, for everything else, you know, like, and I've talked about this before, you know, governments, they're going to have your information. You know, if you're signing up for internet service, your credit cards, all that stuff, you have to give them personal information. Your phones, there's no way around that, you know. And so, yeah, I don't know what else to say about that, but we control what we can. And so, so Gaza saying, don't forget there is also Entryware in the UK who sells Linux systems. Yeah, I'm not familiar with that, Gaza. Rose is saying Purism laptops can be upgraded while Apple computers just glued and can't be upgraded. Yeah, but you know, Rose, these laptops, they're not made for the Apple crowd anyway. I don't think most Apple people, I'm not saying all, because there's so many people who use Apple products, including some very technical geeks, okay? And so I'm not saying this is everybody, but the majority of people who use Apple products, they're probably not going to have any idea what Linux is anyway. So I don't think Purism is going to be a target market for those users. And so those are the main things that I wanted to talk about today. First is teens moving away from Facebook to YouTube, Instagram, and how video, which is the whole point of this, is so important, not only from a consumer point of view, but also from a marketing point of view, and also from a content creator point of view. And then secondly, Dell releasing a brand new Linux laptop, and also the state of Linux hardware in general. Now, let's go ahead and get into some other geeky stuff. This is the section where we just talk about whatever. We have Q&A. And so normally I always talk about movies and games, okay? And so if you have not seen this movie, Upgrade, go check it out. I did do a review of this movie on my other channel. I will leave a link to that as well in the description area below. But if you're not familiar with this movie, okay, let me just set it up in general. So there's this guy, his name is Gray. And he's played by Logan Marshall Green, who looks a lot like Tom Hardy. Well, his wife, Asha, actually gets killed, gets murdered. And so he actually gets an upgrade through this thing called STEM. It's a AI processor that he gets put into his body. And from here, he becomes basically RoboCop on steroids. And so that's the whole general point of the movie. And just quite simply, y'all, Upgrade is a surprisingly good movie. This is a very low budget movie. It was made by the same person who did Saw and Insidious, and he was actually in the movie Saw as well. And so this is an excellent movie. And I would not think that people would be very familiar with this movie unless they're on YouTube or something. They've probably seen the ads. But I highly recommend you go check this out. It does sci-fi in a way that is fun. It's exciting. There are some twists and turns there. And whenever I was watching this, It made me think so much about RoboCop, the Terminator, even Frankenstein as well. And also, it talks a lot about AI. And so if you remember seeing that movie Ex Machina, which is an amazing movie, there's a little bit of Ex Machina in Upgrade as well. The action is top notch. Cinematography, I could go on and on about this movie. And I'm fanboying out because, you know, Upgrade gave me something that most big budget sci-fi movies just don't do anymore. You know, most big budget sci-fi movies, it's the same thing. You know, they rehash it, you know, and I hate to say this, okay? This is probably, I'm going to get a lot of hate for this, but I enjoyed it, Upgrade, more than I did Avengers Infinity War. That's crazy. It really was. And they use a lot of practical effects. I like CGI, but if I had a preference between CGI and practical effects, I'm always going to choose practical effects. They just look better. You know, it's more realistic. And even like the new Star Wars movie, I prefer the old Star Wars movie effects more. The original from the 1970s and 80s. Because the practical effects were just so amazing. That's just me. And so anyway, if you wanted to check out my review of Upgrade, like I said, be sure to check it out in the link area below. I will be leaving that on there. Microsoft planning to buy GitHub for $2 billion. Microsoft planning to undermine open source. Linux is a cancer. Well, Rose, as we've seen over these past years, Microsoft is probably the biggest proponent of Linux right now. And so they use Linux in a lot more things than we think of. And as I have mentioned before, all of these companies, they're using Linux because it makes them money. Okay, so Microsoft's going to buy, this is my prediction, and we have talked about this before. Microsoft is going to buy Ubuntu, my opinion. They'll buy GitHub. They will be the biggest owners of open source projects over any of these other companies. That's crazy to say. That's crazy to say, but that's where it's going. Just look at what Microsoft is doing. And it's primarily due to Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft. He's not stupid. He knows that Microsoft trying to fight Linux as an operating system, as a provider, it wasn't working. And that's why Steve Ballmer was not successful when he called Linux as a cancer. Nadella is different. He leverages whatever technologies will help the business. And he saw Linux many years ago that that's where they needed to go. And guess what? Microsoft has Linux almost everywhere now. Okay, if you look at they started with their desktop operating system with their Linux WSL. And then they added Linux to their Azure cloud services along with their Azure Linux distro, okay, for IoT devices. And now they're going to potentially buy GitHub, and I think they're going to buy Ubuntu as well. And so I know that's probably a horrible thing, but that's the reality. Just look at everything that they're doing. And so, and many times I've showed before the Linux Foundation, all the biggest supporters, members of the Linux Foundation, they're all these big companies. They're all Google, Microsoft, Facebook. Okay, so yeah, so yeah, we might have to make a news later on where Microsoft officially buys Ubuntu. I really, really feel that that's what's happening, and everything that they're doing, GitHub, all this stuff, it's not surprising to me because that's what Nadella, with his master plan, that's where he's heading. And that's why Microsoft is a company that most people in the consumer space or even in the tech space, they don't really talk about much in terms of just, oh, it's Microsoft versus Linux, Microsoft versus Apple. No, Microsoft, they're trying to take over the world. And they're doing a lot of moves underneath everything in the right places. Okay, so let's kind of get ready for that. I don't know what to say about that. Yeah, they buy GitHub, they buy Ubuntu. I'm not sure. You know, yeah, I don't know, because as we know this, business-wise, I understand why they're doing it, but I don't want a Microsoft experience on my Linux desktop operating system. Okay, and I know Microsoft, they've already released a Linux distro, by the way, because of that Azure IoT. They've already taken the first step. And so I mentioned this many months ago that Microsoft will be releasing a full-on Linux distro for the desktop. And I'm guaranteeing you it's going to be one of the most popular distros. Why? Because they have a lot of people who use Microsoft Windows. And so what they're going to say is, hey, you could get this free version of Microsoft. It's a Linux-based distribution as for all the people who use Linux. And you're going to be able to play games full-on Microsoft games through our Linux distro, and you're going to be able to use most of your programs like Adobe and stuff through Microsoft, this Linux distro, and then for a fee, you could pay for full-on virtualization. That's where Microsoft is going to go. That's my prediction. I've said this many months ago, but I know that's what they're going to do. Then that way, they're going to be able to control both areas, both proprietary and open source. And they're going to have a huge advantage over both Apple and Google. And so I remember that I said this in this video, and I'll go back to other videos, and maybe whenever this stuff happens, I'm going to compile all of it in one video. Okay, so yeah, and so yeah, I don't like the Microsoft experience, man, but I think it's going to happen, unfortunately. And so anyway, much like the Linux desktop, hold on to your Linux operating systems for as long as you can. It's not going to happen anytime soon, but anyway, yeah. Oh, Gaza's saying it sounds similar to Altered Carbon. It's, yeah, you know, Gaza is funny. It is similar to it, but it's way, way better. For people who are not familiar with what Gaza's talking about, Altered Carbon, Altered Carbon is a series on Netflix. And it was a lot like Blade Runner, but I didn't really enjoy it, honestly. But Upgrade, you're right, Gaza, there are shades of Altered Carbon in there, but I just think it's better. Ki2Ne is saying, speaking of the movie, if you were given the option to have the chip, would you do it knowing that you'd lose control? Well, Ki2Ne, that's a good point. Because a lot of us are already giving up control over our lives over to technology anyway. We're already doing it. Think about your smartphones, right? And I did mention this on a previous video, right? And so this is my own thoughts, okay? So whenever a company or government wants to introduce new technology that in the end will control people's habits, that's really what it is, okay? They will introduce it in an entertaining way, okay? So for example, on your phone, you know, with all the emojis and stuff like that, right? You could have fun and have funny cartoon emoji faces. Well, what they're doing is making people be comfortable with having their privacy, their face being mapped, their data being collected completely. That's a lot of control and privacy that you're giving up by doing that. And then so later on, when these businesses and governments take even more data, change more of your habits, and you rely more on technology, you have already given up control many, many years ago. Okay, so now not only are you dependent upon the technology, but you've already given up so much of your own free will to these technologies. So people are giving up control right now, and they don't know that they are. Okay, that's my opinion. Okay, so just think about all the things that we use our technology for. Just think about all the things that we are giving up, all the things that we rely on for technology. You compare that to 20 and 30 years ago, it's absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. And so, yeah, so I think the chip's already in us, Ki2Ne. That's my personal opinion. And in terms of artificial bodies, we've been doing that for a long time. We've had artificial limbs for decades now, since what, the 60s, 70s? So we are already going to become androids anyway in the future. Well, we already are. And so the next step is just the whole AI and nano machines. I think that'd be next. You know, AI is already here, but nano machines, nanobots, that would be the next evolution of humans. And so, yeah, basically I watch too many sci-fi movies. So Rose is saying, Upgrade movie sounds interesting. I would see it. I would take a look at Altered Carbon. Thanks, guys. Yeah. Guys saying Upgrade equals Deus Ex. Yeah, yeah. Hey, good morning, Lance. Thanks for joining. Guys saying Microsoft has the money to buy whoever they want. Yeah, Gaza, they do. They have a lot of money. They're not going anywhere, man. I mean, I'm surprised Apple hasn't done more things. I mean, I know they're heading there, but man, I'm surprised. They have a ton of money. I don't know why they're not moving faster. Rose is saying we are becoming cyborgs, assimilate to the greater corporation and the state. Wink, wink. Are the Borg resistance is futile? Yeah, the Borg, absolutely. Okay, so yeah, so in general, check out Upgrade. It's a sweet movie. You have a fun time. So the last thing I want to talk about today is this. Sega Sega Mega Drive and Genesis Classics is now available for Linux and Mac. So if you're not familiar with what I'm talking about, if you go to the Steam store, you could get the Mega Drive and Genesis Classics. I think there's over 50 games or something. There's a lot of games up here. Okay, let me see how many games. Oh, should be over 50. Yeah, over 50 games. All on these classic collections. And I myself, I absolutely love the Sega Genesis / Mega Drive for people in other countries. And in the UK, the Mega Drive was absolutely huge. And so this is something that, you know, if you are already a retro gamer, you know, you already have an emulator. Let's just be real. But for everyone else who actually wants this done through Sega, this is a great collection. And so what they just did was they released an update right here on May 29th. Oh, okay, so on the update, they've done all these things. But check this out. Mac and Linux support and also VR support. That's okay. The VR support is wild. Okay, I've never experienced retro gaming through VR, and now that it's available for Mac and Linux, well, I don't have a VR setup, damn it. But yeah, that's good. Yeah, oh, by the way, speaking of Steam, I am still absolutely loving Bloodstained: Curse of the Moon. I can't wait till that comes out on Linux. But this is really great news. I love Sega. I'm a Sega fanboy as well, and I remember when I got my Sega Genesis and I played Altered Beast for the first time right there. It's absolutely amazing. So I gotta give hats off for Sega for doing this. You know, any companies, especially a company like Sega, which I absolutely love. So many people love Sega. For them to provide a Linux version, thank you for doing that. You know, so many other people who don't want to go the emulation route and want it officially from Sega, they could come here and play a lot of their classics. Streets of Rage, whoa, I love Streets of Rage. Revenge of Shinobi, yeah, just some sweet stuff, man. So hats off to Sega for doing that. And so, yeah, some good news, Geek. Yeah, some good news for once. Yes. So I hope other Sega things are released on here as well. I would love to see some Dreamcast games on Steam for Linux as well. Man, I'm like really curious about this VR support as well. I never really thought about VR for retro games. I don't know how that's. Oh, there's Alex Kidd. Yeah. Anyway, I'm just fanboying out now. So it looks like it's almost been an hour. And so if there's anything that y'all had any thoughts on anything that I talked about today, teens moving away from Facebook to YouTube, Dell and the whole Linux laptop world, Upgrade the movie, and here Sega Mega Drive Genesis Classics available on Linux with VR support. Be sure to leave all of that in the comments area below. And before I do sign off, let me go ahead and thank everybody who's here, because y'all geeks are the most important thing. Y'all are so fun. And so first, I want to thank, these are all my regulars, by the way. Gaza, Rose, KI2NE, let me see, Lance. I just want to thank y'all so much for joining and adding to the Geek discussion. And for any of you who are watching right now, thank you so much for joining all of us. We do this every week. Typically on Saturdays, we have this live episode. I have another live episode. I'm still trying to work out the days, but normally I have another live episode on Monday for all the content creators and digital marketers as well. So you could join me for that if you're interested in it. And so, yeah, so anyway, any of y'all have any other thoughts, be sure to check out my links in the description area below if you wanted to see not only my review of Upgrade, but also for people who are interested in digital marketing. I do have 4 free videos that you could actually get access to if you are interested in that. Okay, so if you did get value out of these videos, be sure to subscribe. And if you wanted to support my channel further, you could do that at patreon.com/geekoutdoors. Thanks so much. We'll see you on another live episode.